Hello! Welcome to the Polyglot Files. My name is Michael and today we're doing a short video on a pretty interesting, although pretty controversial topic. Before I start though, if you haven't checked out my new website, thepolyglotfiles.com, I strongly suggest you head over. You can find a full written article based on today's video topic and find lots of other language learning and linguistic related tidbits. Now I know why you're here. You want me to directly answer the question that I posed in the video title. But before I do that, I'm gonna make you wait. Let's break down these two languages, Sanskrit and Armenian, individually. Our first language, Sanskrit, is one that I mentioned in the Languages of the Ancient World video, and its first written accounts actually date back to 3000 BC. Even though Sanskrit was spoken pretty widely during ancient times, especially in the Indus Valley civilizations, it was pretty much extinct by the 7th century AD. Despite this, Sanskrit has experienced a slight revival in modern times, and according to Indian census data, approximately 14,000 people claim to speak Sanskrit natively. Further, and this might come as a surprise to those who don't know much about linguistics, Sanskrit is an Indo-European language, meaning that it is distantly related to other Indo-European languages, such as English and French and German. However, it is part of the Indo-Aryan branch of the Indo-European languages, meaning that it is more closely related to languages like Gujarati and Hindi. Sanskrit is a highly inflected language. It has 3 grammatical genders, 3 numbers, and 8 distinct noun cases. Because of this, Sanskrit has a fairly free word order. However, speakers often default to the subject-object-verb word order when speaking naturally. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Sanskrit, however, is that some scholars believed and still believe that Sanskrit is the mother of all Indo-European languages. But more on that later. Armenian, unlike Sanskrit, is a relatively new language. The first written account of Armenian dates back to only about 500 AD, which is about 3,500 years after the first written accounts of Sanskrit. Further, Armenian occupies its own branch of the Indo-European language family, meaning that even though it's related to other Indo-European languages, it has no known language relatives, living or dead. Today, Armenian is very much alive. There are about 12 million speakers of Armenian who either live in Armenia or abroad. Armenian also has a fairly large consonant inventory, meaning that there are 34 consonant sounds in the Armenian language. Even more if you take into account the other sounds that are used in Armenian dialects. Compare that with English's 24 consonant sounds, and we can see that Armenian is a fairly phonetically diverse language. Armenian also has a subject-object-verb word order, no grammatical gender, but 7 noun cases. Further, like Sanskrit, there are some scholars who believe that Armenian is the mother of all Indo-European languages, which brings me to the topic of today's video. Are either of these languages actually the mother of all Indo-European languages, or is there some other answer? Firstly, the idea that Sanskrit could in fact be the mother or the root of all modern Indo-European languages can be traced back to the scholar Friedrich Schlegel in the 1800s. Today, he is often deemed the father of comparative linguistics, meaning he was the first one to link certain languages together and show how they were related. But one of his most controversial claims happens to be this one about Sanskrit. Schlegel's hypothesis that Sanskrit is the mother of all modern Indo-European languages is based on the fact that when Sanskrit was first studied by Europeans back in the 19th century, they discovered that it was not only a very old language, but it shared a surprising amount of linguistic similarity to other Indo-European languages. For example, if we look at the word mother in Sanskrit, we can see that it is very close to other Indo-European languages, such as Latin and Persian and Greek. For the scientific standards of the time, this was enough to allow many people to believe that Sanskrit was in fact the mother of all Indo-European languages. And if this wasn't true, people at least believed that Sanskrit was a very, very early descendant of Proto-Indo-European, which itself would give birth to all the other Indo-European languages. However, in today's day and age, we know that just because something is labeled the oldest, it doesn't necessarily constitute a piece of scientific proof. Because of the relatively recent work that has been done on Proto-Indo-European, most scholars now believe that Sanskrit is not the mother of all Indo-European languages. As you can probably guess, a more well-supported but no less controversial candidate for the mother of all Indo-European languages is in fact Armenian. This theory, appropriately titled the Armenian Hypothesis, was first postulated by... Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I can't say these guys' names, so I am going to read them to you. Tamaz V. Gamkrelidze and Vyacheslav Ivanov in 1985. First and foremost, they hypothesized that all Indo-European languages evolved from the same Proto-Indo-European language spoken in the Armenian highlands. To prove this, they relied on something called glottalic theory, a hypothesis that says that Proto-Indo-European featured ejective stops. I'm not going to attempt to make an ejective stop for you, but basically it's a click sound. Moving on. Due to the fact that some modern dialects of Armenian still retain these ejective stop sounds, and further, because there are studies that genetically trace Europeans back to the Armenian highlands, these two researchers claim that the Armenian language is the closest language that we have to what Proto-Indo-European sounded like. They even go so far as to say that Armenian itself is a direct descendant of Proto-Indo-European. However, there is one small problem. For Armenian to be the mother of all Indo-European languages, the first written accounts of Armenian would have to date back to sometime way before 500 AD. Without these written accounts, we would have to assume that Armenian wasn't spoken until after other Indo-European languages, such as Latin and Greek, which have written accounts way before Armenian's written account. But that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to support this theory that Armenian is the mother of all Indo-European languages. However, I do understand that that doesn't necessarily mean that Armenian wasn't spoken thousands of years ago. I guess these people just didn't feel like writing it down? But anyway, as you can imagine, these two theories have received a lot of criticism and they are the subject of much debate among the linguistic community. In my opinion, I think that the mother of all Indo-European languages is Proto-Indo-European, and it does not have any direct descendants because it branched out into the languages that we have today. It's like your great-great-great-great-grandfather, no longer living, but an influence on you. This got dark really fast. So leave me a comment in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing from you. And while you're doing that, check out my social media. I have an Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. As usual, thank you for watching the Polyglot Files. I will see you next time. Goodbye! I just can't dance anymore.